Episode 205. You know the drill. We're going to be covering these hot topics today, and yesterday was a hot one. And we're going to be covering the lawsuit, the verdict that NAR, KW, and some of these other ones have conspired to break the law, I guess, break the rules, and they were fined big time. So we'll see what happens with that. We're gonna talk about that because we definitely have some hot sports opinion on that. A little bit about NAR's response, as well as we're seeing a lot of posts about KW and Gary took the stand. So we'll break that down. And Zillow and FUBar, which FUBar stands for something else, but we're really talking about the Zillow buying follow-up boss, the CRM.
It's been a blessing in the sense lately that it has not been difficult to choose show topics.
Sure, I love it. There was
a while there we were struggling to figure out what we were going to talk about.
Yeah, I like doing, it's kind of like in a radio show when they have, a really good news week of just breaking news, and they can just break it down and it makes our job easier because we get paid a lot of money to do this.
Yeah, it's very, very profitable.
Yes, yeah.
Who else is very profitable?
Mortgage Mike, right? Mortgage Mike is slinging those Mortgage Mike loan approvals. So if you want that Mortgage Mike stamp of approval, just get with old Mortgage Mike there, and you can connect with him by going to mmgloans.com and tell him that the guys from the Only Real Estate Podcast Worth Listening To sent you over there. He is licensed in Texas and in Oklahoma. So give them all those land deals up there.
Yeah, 100%. And then when you're done and they build houses on that land and you want to rent them out, that was a bad segue. Go to Homeward Property Management.
Awful.
That was pretty bad.
That's why you got to leave this to me.
Yeah, I am a little rusty. I wasn't here last week.
That's true. So
I'm out of practice. But you know who's not out of practice? Dana Wynn over at Homeward Property Management. Check out.
By the way, Dana Wynn is now certified in Section 8 management.
She is. Ooh. Send her all your Section 8 stuff. She got the licensure to do that. So make sure that you send her your guaranteed money Section 8 deals. Check out homewarddfw.com. She said she wasn't going to listen today, so she probably didn't hear that.
Yeah. And then, of course, our other two remaining sponsors, right? We've got Armadillo, giving you that hard shell protection, the home warranty company that all the pros choose, every single one of them. Just go to armadillo.one/Tore, Tore. And then, look, you want to make a podcast like this because you want to talk about all the breaking news, right? You probably have an opinion about what's going on. I'm seeing it all over Facebook. Yeah. Everyone has an opinion about NAR, about the lawsuit, about Zillow, Gary, follow-up boss, and just make a show with Tore Studio. Because
get your hot sports opinions out there.
Yes.
Be heard.
Yeah.
Find your voice. Tore Studios. Find your voice.
Ding, ding, ding.
There you go. Tore Studios. Find your voice and your face.
And your face.
Yeah. I like it. So let's break this down. We've covered this in the past, and I guess these are like, look, this is just NAR just takes punches.
There's a lot of stuff to talk about. There's NAR. Look, I think we got to get the biggest elephant in the room out of the way right up front.
That Kelderman's not here.
Kelderman's not here. He is celebrating his wife and her life today, which is awesome for them.
It's a weird way to put that.
It almost sounds like
her birthday.
It almost sounds like she passed away.
He's the one that says it like that. Never mind.
Celebration of life.
An inside joke about it. Regardless, his wife has a Halloween birthday, and they're celebrating today, so that's awesome. No, big elephant. I don't know if you guys heard. The NFL sent a cease and desist to the University of Houston.
I saw that.
For blatantly copying the Houston Oilers jerseys in their game on Saturday. Yep. So there's a lot to unpack here. We probably need to talk about that a bunch, but I guess we'll start with the lesser important stuff. This verdict. Do you want to start there? Let's start with FUB.
Yeah, let's go with FUB because I want people to stay tuned in, right? This one, and make your comments. Like we would love, especially because we've got a ton of listeners on this one, a ton of live viewers. Chauncey Fam's going to sign up for Tore Studios. That's the famous Chauncey Fam. Right. You can find her on Zombie House Flipping, guest of our show multiple times. But I want to hear your hot sports opinions on number one. Why do you think that the jury has basically found that NAR and KW and the other one Anywhere, or did they settle? I think they settled.
They settled.
It was somebody else, whatever it was, but
Berkshire Home Services.
Yeah, Home Services that basically they conspire to keep commission prices elevated.
Yeah, I got hot sports opinions on settling too. But let's start with FUB, right?
Yeah.
So, breaking news. There have been rumors about it for the last few days. Follow Up Boss, the well-known and loved, beloved CRM, has been acquired by Zillow. If you jump on any real estate Facebook group right now, that is apparently a sign of the apocalypse. And we might as well just cash in all our chips now. So I'm going to get this out of the way up front because we got a lot of viewers today and I'm going to really enjoy this conversation. But here's what I will promise you, and then I'll give you advice. I promise you that if you're looking for some sort of like fuel to the fire around how bad any of this is, or me to sort of give you some sort of satisfaction in the misery that you're feeling around all this, turn the show off. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to fuel your negative mindset around the apocalypse du jour.
Well, keep it on because I am going to fuel.
All right, so Nick will play my counterpart. That would be what I promise you. I'm just going to tell you right now, and we can talk about the breakdown and like the actual serious matters around this. Zillow's ownership of any CRM or anything it's ever done in its entire existence is not what is affecting your business. It never has been. So I just want to get that out there, only because I understand we've talked about this several times the last several months, really all year, right? Like, this is a very interesting time in the real estate market in general. It's a difficult time in the real estate industry in many ways. There are many opportunities out there still, but the market has compressed a little bit. And so I believe that I believe that so much of controversy that exists simply exists as a result of our addiction to controversy. We love talking about how bad things are. And so the Follow Up Boss acquisition is very interesting. It is not going to negatively affect your business if you don't let it.
Not right now. Look, you're right. It's not. I mean, just like the lawsuits aren't going to negatively impact your business right now. Right. So, could it in the future? Sure. I mean, Danny Force just commented, nobody pays $500 million to acquire, a CRM.
And I think that's where we should start the conversation, because yes, of course. Well, nobody pays $500 million for anything without wanting it for some reason, right? But I think that's a very interesting conversation. So, in your opinion, we'll start there, and then we'll go to Jesse, right? Like, Zillow could have hired a dev company or built an in-house dev company to even build a better CRM, right? Like, what
they have a CRM.
They already have a CRM.
They have one built in, but looking at this, it's all about data, right? So they acquired Showing Time, and so you kind of piecemeal everything together. So Showing Time, they're getting to see the trends of how many houses in certain areas are getting a ton of activity. So, back then when they acquired Showing Time, they're like, oh, now they're going to see where all the hot spots area are. So they're going to start targeting that area. They're going to be able to make offers for Zillow offers at a higher pace or much higher price.
Right.
They're going to see, if you're using dot loop, they're going to see all the pricing that comes in, by the way.
Yep.
Daryl, I'd love to see Zillow called Daryl today and said that there's a new product in beta, which is called, End All Real Estate Agents. We are now the only source that anybody should ever use.
Right.
That with dot loop, they're saying, all right, they can read all the contracts. They're going to know where the offers are coming in, whether they're coming in low, coming in at price, going over asking, how many offers are getting submitted because of the envelopes, et cetera.
Yeah.
And sure, in the future, that could happen. Yeah. I mean, when they start to acquire all the pieces and put it together,
right,
that definitely could happen. I mean,
yes. So this is obviously the elephant in the room. Like, this is the obvious.
I'm making great points.
You are making fantastic points, right?
You,
if I haven't told you that enough,
I appreciate
you make fantastic points on this show.
Oh, stop it.
I believe that is absolutely their agenda, as it were, and good on them, right? The idea would be to acquire every every stop on the tour, as it were, in a transaction, in a real estate transaction. If I was a several billion-dollar company, I would absolutely be doing that as well. I would hope that would be what I aspire to. I guess what I'm saying is that for the longest time, we have always seen Zillow as the big bad wolf, Every time Zillow does something, Zillow is out to end real estate agents' careers, take over the industry, cut you, put you. They're here to take. What's the South Park thing? Take our jobs, right? Like that's what they're trying to do. They have not succeeded this far
yet.
Okay, yet. And I think if we just looked at this in a vacuum, maybe took a step back and looked at it a little bit more objectively, I actually think Zillow has vastly diverted from what maybe their original business plan was all those years ago when Rich Barton founded the company. I don't believe they're trying to put agents out of business at all. I think they've realized that it's too difficult to start a completely digital real estate transaction firm and everything soup to nuts. And I think they're trying to find ways to partner with more real estate agents. I believe Zillow's end game is to become the largest real estate brokerage on earth. That doesn't mean, I don't know if it's good, bad, or whatever. It's not going to change anybody's opinion about Zillow. I don't see a couple of things. The data aspect of it, because this is going to be a deeper conversation. The data aspect of it, if you don't think that other CRMs, if Zillow was going to circumvent their service agreement, which has data protection in it, Follow Up Boss has already come out and said that, right? They will not share third-party information. Which doesn't mean that that's going to happen or it's not going to happen. If you don't think that if Zillow were to circumvent that third-party service agreement, that wouldn't already have been happening by Boomtown, Sierra Interactive, Chime, Market, Top Produce, all that type of stuff. And then if you're talking about just getting the data so you can go behind and like make cash offers or do whatever. Like, you don't need Zillow to be the big bad wolf there. Literally anybody could do that and already would have been doing that.
Hold on. All right, let's stop there.
Yeah.
Do you believe, and I saw the follow-up email, the Follow Boss email that says, you know what, we have it in here that they're not taking your data.
Sure.
Right? Sure, but
it's data or data?
Determines on what we're talking about.
I think it's the context, right?
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah. Like Star Trek, it's data or data.
Yeah. I think Star Trek is data.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you know, when you look at it, all it takes is a quick update of terms of services.
It
so
does.
right now they're saying, well, don't worry, Brian. Right now, we're not taking your data.
Yeah.
And I think you say data when it's more, you emphasize it.
I think when you're talking about overlords, it's data.
Yeah.
Usually.
But they're like, hey, what's that data over there?
Yeah, that doesn't sound, it's not as heavy.
No. But
yeah,
again, you get into it, everyone, you know, this noise dials down or, you know, calms down, it lessens. And then in 3, 4, 5, 6 months, maybe a year.
Right.
Then all of a sudden, new terms of service. And what does everyone do? They just scroll down, click, because it is a pain in the ass to switch CRMs.
So you're probably right. And like, let's do this anxiety exercise where you confront your anxiety, and then that forces you to find out how bad it really isn't.
It's not
because yes, that's what any good counselor will tell you to do, right? Go into the darkness and you'll find the light. Zillow takes all the data, so they have all of your incomplete contacts that you put in FUB, right? What are they doing with it? What are they doing with it they can't already be doing?
Sure. I mean, look, that's a great point. And I mean, you know, shame on us brokerages that, I mean, how many transactions go through EXP, Keller Williams, Home Services, Berkshire? Like if you go take all the years of data that these brokerages have, I mean, like they haven't done really anything with it. Like I remember when I was when I was leaving and I parted ways with Keller Williams, I still remember like I was using Keller Mortgage. And I do remember that I had some past clients get called by Keller Mortgage. Like, man, mother, you know, I was like,
well, they're also Keller Mortgage clients now.
Correct.
That's the difference.
Right. And I was like, man, this is why I don't want to give all my data away.
Right.
And I'm like, wait, they could have just bought this off. You can go buy all this, you know, and this is all for sale. It's all public information for the most part.
You're right. This guy in blue is not that smart. So you can throw Daryl's other example up there. They'll scrape it. That's so true. They will scrape your data. So if I was going to scrape data, being a digital market expert, I wouldn't spend X amount of money. I'm assuming a lot of money to buy Follow Up Boss. I would literally use the tools that are already widely offered. You know, the best way to scrape data would just be to use a Google's platform and build. And you could build. I mean, because you guys don't want to go down this rabbit hole, right? You could build an endless amount of tools in-house with a dev team that could scrape data at such a higher level.
Sure.
You could go hire Speculo or Ylopo to do it for you at a higher level than Follow Up Boss, just keeping people in your database, like giving them that incomplete information. Then you're going to be able to do. You're not tracking behavioral metrics. Dude, you literally, if you wanted what Zillow has already probably done, do you want to know why? Like every single time
you go to any real estate website and come back, Zillow's already retargeting you. You know how easy it is to set up retargeting just based, man, what is it called? It's like antonym retargeting. Here, remember, just based on visitors of other websites. So you'll basically, anytime you sign up for Real Estate Webmasters, a YLOPO site, or whatever, Zillow's VAs or their algorithms or whatever will just go and add that URL to a retargeting audience. Okay. And add you to a retargeting audience, right? And every single time you go back to Facebook, Google, whatever, you'll now be retargeted by Zillow.
Sure.
I am not saying they can't take data and scrape it. I'm saying this mechanism, just buying FUB, is not giving you a leg up in that regard. It just isn't.
I believe you're right that they're working on becoming just like a huge one-stop shop brokerage.
Yes, they're trying to own the entire process.
They become the Amazon in that space. Mm-hmm. And look, that could happen. I mean, and then maybe some of those people who get in early that apply for jobs and work their way up, and they make 7-figure salaries and have great stock options, whatever.
Look, and it's not going to be an entirety, right? Like they're going to take some market share. Like Zillow is trying to become a successful brokerage. They're trying to own the entire process, have better tools.
Well, they have all the traffic.
That's what I'm saying. They
have.
So
they have the traffic. They started with traffic.
They've spent years building the brand, building the loyalty, building the, their name as a verb, Zillowed it basically, right? They've spent years doing that. And I think that their original business plan was probably a little bit different, and they have diverted to owning the entire process now, and they'll probably take some market share. They're not going to put every other real estate brokerage out of business. They're also not the boogeyman you think they are. They're not going to make realtors extinct. They're just not. And if they were going to do it, buying FUB isn't giving them a leg up.
Yeah, I mean, I heard it's a great CRM, though.
It's fantastic CRM.
Yeah. So, I did post. I saw Nick Baldwin posting lab coats, and I made a comment on there. I said, how many people are going to now just in and stop using them? And there were several people that mean like, I am. I'm like, sounds great in theory, but once you've built out your CRM, like it's a whip to go like Kelderman posted in the comments, because he is tuning in. Is like, going to be a one-night stand CRM user like Nick used to be, right? So it's like, I've tried them all, and it's a whip just as change. And I believe, like, look, it's kind of like the election years when they're like, if this person gets elected, I'm moving to Canada. How many people actually did move to Canada?
I know, but
I don't know.
I know more that didn't, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, we switched. When we switched from our old CRM to Follow Up Boss, it's a beating, man. 80,000 people in there and a whole ton of systems and automation set up. Like, it's a beating.
You did
beating for sure.
Be transparent. You did put your resume into Zillow.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. Like, guys, I'm trying to get hired.
Yeah.
Like,
that's why you're defending.
If you can't beat them,
that's why he's defending
it. So it sounds like I'm some sort of Zillow apologist. I've never spent $1 on the platform. Don't care. I'm just not going to give in to the fear of acquisition, because you know what? It hasn't done. Like, how long have they owned Showing Time?
I mean,
3 years.
Has it?
When did they buy Dotloop? 2020, 2019? 2 years ago. Okay, guys, I'm not saying that change happens in an instant. I'm also saying that we like, if you look at the man hours, just get on social media right now and look at the amount of man hours replicated across all the people talking about this. It has literally already got to be in the trillions of wasted man hours talking about these two issues. And that's why I said up front, I'm not going to give into your fear. If you want me to justify how much time we're spending thinking about this in a negative way, this is not going to be the show for you. Zillow is not destroying your business. This is a relationship.
You're destroying your business.
I'm going to tell you right now, if you're not out there building relationships every day and hustling your ass off, and you're more worried about Zillow buying FUB as if that has anything to do with you, guys, you're making yourselves easy to beat.
I love it. I love it. All right. I think we FUBAR'd that one to death.
I think so. Well, yeah. I mean, we don't have to get as hyped about it. I am interested in like what the
end result is.
Yeah. It's an interesting time in real estate across the board.
Let's get the Zillow CEO on.
Rich? No, he's not the CEO anymore. Is he?
Well, I don't know. You're the one who just threw his name out.
Well, it's Rich Barton. He's the same guy from Expedia.
Yeah, but is he back? Didn't he leave and then come back? Like
I don't know. That's why I said I don't think he's the CEO. I'm just saying you're.
Well, I didn't throw a name.
Like surprised that I knew his name. Like he's a well-known guy. He is the CEO now. He came back in 2019.
Doesn't he live in South Lake?
You know more about this than I do.
Does he live in South Lake?
Does he live in South Lake?
I don't know.
I don't think it'll say that on his LinkedIn profile.
Doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Let's get him on. Whoever has connections to Rich Barton, I would love to have him on.
Okay.
But all right. So I want to move backwards a little bit or give some clarity, because there are some people, I've seen some people, somebody made a post about like, why are some of these real estate stocks just dropping? This was yesterday. I'm like, this guy must be living on the rock. And the one comment back was, oh, because of the lawsuit verdict. And he's like, what lawsuit? Some people don't even know what happened. So let's break this down. There, excuse me. There was a.
I do want to just. I promise. Then we'll move on. Chauncey, please put Chauncey's comment up. I just want to use that for just 1 second. We look at the amount of time that people spend bitching about stuff like that, as opposed to the amount of time they actually spend using their tools. You'd have a different business, but we'll move on.
So Chauncey says agents can't fight their way out of a paper bag. This is why they're scared of everything and they don't use CRMs.
They don't use CRMs.
But they're bitching about CRMs, but they don't even use
the time
them.
you don't even use yours.
Yeah, I love my CRM. By the way.
Thank you for saying that, Chauncey.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So look, the lawsuit, right? There was a class action lawsuit in Missouri. It was 500,000 Missouri homeowners that were basically saying that NAR, KW, and Home Services colluded to keep commissions inflated, right, and the cost high. And it was like was it 2 weeks? I think it was like a 2-week deal.
I think the actual trial, something like that. Yeah,
right.
I mean, the suit's been going on for a very long time.
But I think this is a different suit, by the way.
Well, there are two.
Yeah.
One is still outstanding. The Merle v. NAR.
Yeah, this one's a different one, right?
This is
the Sitzer Burnett commission trial, the class action trial, and it includes NAR, KW, Home Services of America, and basically it was agreeing that those parties conspired to artificially inflate real estate commissions. So basically, in the verdict, which holds the potential to completely rewrite the way real estate transactions are handled, I don't know if that's true 100%. Like, I think a lot of this, there's a lot of buzzwords that I've seen yesterday.
This is okay. While you're doing that, and I want to, can you pull up? Will you just Google something to the effect of like this lawsuit, and there's a New York Times article. So something like Sitzer, whatever, New York Times. There's a New York Times article that I read earlier today that I do want to talk about, just the way that journalists cover this type of thing, because it was full of factual errors.
Yes. Well, with just the headline that I was seeing on some of these.
That top one.
Yeah. Home sellers awarded $1.8 billion after jury finds conspiracy among realtors.
Oh, they updated their terms. They're selling your data now too.
That's right. So
Jesse, you just got bought by Zillow.
So basically, all right, let's finish this real quick though. So basically there was 8 jurors, and they went back, talked about it for only 2.5 hours, came back with unanimous agreement that was said, yes, NAR, KW, Home Services of America did collude to keep prices higher, and awarded $1.78 billion in damages, which under the law will automatically go up to $5.356 billion. So again, the 8-person jury deliberated for about 2.5 hours Tuesday morning before issuing its unanimous verdict for 500,000 home sellers seeking reimbursement paid to buyer brokers. And so,
how many people were involved in the lawsuit again?
500,000
or 100,000?
500,000.
Do some math here.
So,
$10,000 a person.
I don't care.
Excessive.
Yeah, sure. So the way that I look at this and how, number one, I've always disagreed with how this has been handled, right? So, they're saying it's violating a lot of the clear cooperation, which I think we've been pretty outspoken on clear cooperation on the show. Have we ever touched that topic?
No. Not what I shouldn't just say no. I don't think so.
I think we have,
maybe.
though. Because the clear cooperation rule was.
We talked about it a few weeks ago, kind of in a roundabout way.
I was say, we've talked about it, but not.
It's never been
direct.
I've always thought clear co-op was bullshit.
Yeah,
like to me, okay. Because look at it this way, right? Is that we were bound by these rules. That if your seller, who your fiduciary responsibility is to, ask you to do, like, hey, Brian, like, I want to do this off market.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, can't really do that. clear like, and you can't publicly promote it because you're bound by this stuff over here.
Yeah, that aspect of it, I've struggled to understand how that. I've struggled to understand the merit and how that makes a better marketplace.
Yes, it didn't. It was designed for, in my opinion. Look, if this hurts you, I'm sorry. No, I'm not. But weak agents. It was designed for weak agents that were bitching and moaning and complaining because it gave they're like, oh, well, we need more inventory. My buyers aren't seeing all this. I'm like, well, then go call sellers. Call homeowners.
It doesn't exist in any other marketplace.
And then
I was going to sell a car.
Then the other part, which I didn't really know about because I didn't read. I guess I didn't read it all. Is that Clear Cooperation mandated us to pay some type of fee to a co-oping agent, a buyer's agent.
So this is where the Times article, if you pull that up, is very misleading. And we're not, I don't think, going to be fortunate enough to go back and like watch the hours of trial over the last 11 days and how it all went and the questions that were asked and the answers that were given and stuff like that. But where I find some frustration in this is how it's sort of being presented to the public as far as the playing ground on which it was happening in the first place. There's something in here. You talk about like NAR rules. Okay, right here. Under a NAR rule, sounds clunky. It should be. It sounds clunky. Under NAR rule, home sellers required to pay commissions to agent representing the buyer, which sellers claim forced them to pay excessive fees to agents. I don't know for sure that is not an NAR rule, but I do not believe that it is. I believe that even when you go and get licensed as a realtor, part of the test focuses on the fact that you're not allowed to discuss commissions with other agents. There is actually the exact opposite in practice of price fixing in this industry. You can actually get fined. And I know people that have been fined for trying to price fix, for talking freely about commissions and standardizing them. We've actually had agents across the board for years in different regards be fined for this exact type of thing. And sure. I don't think it's ever. Now, if you're talking about the rule to have sellers pay buyers agents, that's not a rule. And as far as I know. Now, what we could be talking about is at the local board level. For the longest time, MLS has required you to put a buyer.
Yes, a compensation.
Right, but that's not an NAR thing. So I'm just talking about the integrity.
But I think it's part of NAR because because MLS is part of NAR. Yeah, right. So
yes,
for the most part.
Okay, but I will also tell you that MLS has changed. Some MLS has changed that a while back that you didn't have to do that anymore.
But I thought it had to be. I think they changed the maybe there's a minimum or something, but you've always had to offer some type of dollar, a monetary amount.
I'm nearly positive that several years ago, a lot of them changed it to where you could put zero.
I've never seen that because you would have already seen people bitching and moaning about that.
I've seen BAZ at zero even a few years ago.
I've never seen that.
I'm telling you,
I probably looked at 1 million houses on MLS.
But even a million, you might have looked at 1 million.
I don't even know.
Just scrolling at this point in our careers, maybe 1 million, right? Yeah. What I'm saying is, I'm almost positive that you've been able to put zero for the longest time.
Sure, but I think you first of all, you can put whatever you want, but then you get the like you get all the fees or violations.
Right? I don't. That's what I'm saying. I think you've been able to do that without getting a violation. Maybe not in every board ever, but when this all started, this has been going on for years. It's been one of the arguments going around social media circles and things like that is that a lot of people's MLSs allow you to put zero. And so you don't have to. And so if we're talking about like being an NAR rule or whatever, there's so many different things that I think are wrong with this argument. But one of them is I don't think you've always had to offer buyer's agency commission. I think you put zero. Two, when we talk about price fixing and conspiring to fix, commission rates, which is exactly what this lawsuit is about, that is actually the antithesis of how the industry has operated. You can actually, if you're following the book and you're doing things by the book, you can actually get fined for even trying to insinuate that you're price fixing.
Sure.
And people have.
Yeah.
So it's hey, look, I wasn't in the courtroom. I'm just saying the journalistic integrity hasn't.
Here's what I've always been confused on. And I don't know how it is in I can only speak on Texas, right? So I don't know how it works in the other states, and unfortunately I've heard agents say this, which to me is not the right way to do it or to explain it. But I've always have explained it to my seller clients is like, you're paying me the fee, right? I charge whatever. I have charged whatever percent.
Right.
And I am electing to use a portion of this to expand our reach to the co-oping agents in our marketplace and saying, hey, I'm willing, if you bring us a buyer that's willing to pay your price or a price acceptable to you, then I'm going to give up a piece of this commission that you're paying me to do to attract and hopefully sell it faster for a better price, more exposure, etc. That's how I've always explained it, which typically is what it is.
I wouldn't even say, I mean, obviously every listing agreement in every state is a little bit different, but if you talk about here in Texas, it explicitly says that.
Yeah.
Right.
But I've heard, and I've run across these where even on phone calls, where it's like, the seller's like, what, especially on phone calls, and we've run across this, what's your commission? They'll say usually X percent. And then you start to run the numbers. I'm like, well, let's ask them. Let's call them back and ask them. And they're like, oh, my commission is that, but we have to pay a buyer's agent. Sure. And I'm like, no, that's not the explanation.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of agents that have FUBAR'd this whole thing. And we're definitely going to bring this one in.
Sure. Okay. So why don't we just talk about where this goes, right? Because whether or not we agree, whether or not, we like what happened or whatever, right? Like life is, ever evolving and industries are ever evolving, right? Here's what I can tell you. I'm also not going to feed into your fear about this one, right? Like this lawsuit, this verdict yesterday, it will not be the detriment of your business unless you allow it to be. The only detriment to your business will be the amount of brain space that you allow it to occupy that stops you from taking action every single day. Plain and simple. Like this is just the reality of life as we know it. We are given the opportunity every day to be your best friend or your own worst enemy. And if you choose to allow this type of thing to occupy this much space in your head, that's the only way it's going to affect your business. Now, there maybe needs to be forward thinking around what different strategies look like based on different outcomes in an evolving industry and an evolving economy and an evolving world, right? This will not be the end of real estate representation as we know it. Get that fear out of your head. You are giving it to yourself, and you don't need to spoon feed yourself that bullshit. It's just not the truth. Now, let's say moving forward, obviously this is going to be appealed, right?
Well, it's going to be, yes, but they have already, now with this verdict coming in, now the other, the other brokerages that didn't settle, EXP, the other ones are now being brought into it, right? So this will hit every brokerage. It's definitely going to get appealed.
Sure.
Whether, look, I'll say that, from what I've read, Keller Williams' response and some of the other brokers' response were very well crafted.
I think so.
I heard the way that I interpreted NAR, they kind of didn't take it seriously from how I picked up on it. I think they thought maybe they were untouchable.
We have talked a lot about NAR lately, just in different regards. It's obviously probably occupied too many minutes on this show. One hot sports opinion on this topic, I think that NAR probably could have crafted a stronger case. And I will also say, if I was the leader of a real estate brokerage, a nationwide or global real estate brokerage who was tasked with fighting for the livelihood and the freedom of my agents to run their business their way, and I allowed this to be something where I basically admitted that they had a case and settled, I would be understanding if people were ashamed of me. And this will be the only shameless KW plug on this show today. I have never been more proud of somebody who stands up and says, I don't care what it costs me. I will go take the stand myself and I will fight for my people.
Sure. Let's talk about that before we finish up and wrap up of where we believe, this kind of plays out. But you're right. With Gary Keller took the stand, and on the last day for the closing remarks took the stand. And I've seen some posts in some of these larger Facebook groups. By the way, shameless plug, go join the only real estate group with being a part of. Join our group, because we do allow some of those awful posts in there as well. Corey Mills posted is like, maybe KW should have bought FUB instead of just having command, which was actually a really great post. Thanks, Corey, for doing that.
Some 4D chess.
Yeah, and if you can go subscribe to our YouTube channel and leave us 5-star review on podcast channels. But I mean, I've seen some of these posts where they're like, "How could I ever stay aligned with Keller Williams?" They've been found guilty of conspiracy to inflate commissions. And first off, it seemed legit. It didn't seem like this dude was just trolling. He said,
yeah, he was actually
like,
being serious.
He was being serious. He's like, I've been with him for X years. Like, how? And I'm like, first off, Gary, I'm not even with Keller Williams anymore. And the way Gary, fought for it and the way he spoke on it, everybody in the industry should be proud that he did that, regardless of what brokerage you're with. And even if you're a Keller Williams agent and broker, then more power to you. You should be super proud of what Gary did and what he said, because you're right. These other brokerages that settled, to me, some of them have even kind of, they settle, but they still stand by clear cooperation.
Yeah.
They've sent out statements,
which doesn't even make sense.
No.
Like, you're literally just basically rolling over on one side, but then also saying like, but we didn't really agree with that. You know, if it's going to cost you more money, it costs you more money, but at least stand for what you believe in.
Sure. And in this one, I believe like you do fight. Yeah. There's always times to settle in lawsuits, but on this one, with especially in this industry, how, maybe to the public, this seems, just kind of, small potatoes. I think this dies down, and I think that, where it's headed, it's business as usual. But, within this industry, how tight knit it is, and how everyone is very opinionated with, especially type A personalities. I mean, again, I would be very, very freaking proud, to be, what Gary said. And if I was still at Keller Williams, I would be beating my chest and telling everyone this is why I'm here.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that when we talk about, why it's something to stand and fight for, remember, like, this is actually not just about us. We are servants of our clients and our people. At the end of the day, I fundamentally believe that the chaos that all this causes, it's the consumer that loses out for a while, because this type of disruption in the industry, it doesn't help the consumer. You were right. Eventually, and I said this 3 weeks ago, like, eventually this just gets back to business as normal. It just does. Things tend to even themselves out over time. The net effect may be, quite frankly, that in this chaos, and call it chaos, in this time of uncertainty or disruption around what the future looks like or whatever, there may be fewer licensees in 2024 for a bit, potentially.
Well, that's just because of the market in general, right?
I think it's a bad thing, though.
This is and I'm trying to say that in a way that I'm being respectful of people's careers and what they're passionate about. Yeah, between the economic
if they
outlook,
were passionate about it, then they would actually get to work.
You're right.
So,
between the economic outlook and the idea that the general public might have a certain reaction to this for a while before things find their new groove, as I said a few weeks ago, there might be fewer deals per agent out there, or a lower income per deal per agent, potentially, right?
Maybe it goes up.
Or maybe it goes up for some agents.
Look, they're predicting this year we're going to be at 4.1 million sides. Back in 2008, it was around that, which was really the worst time. So can the sides get much lower? Possibly.
So that's where I was going with that, is it might go up on a per agent basis.
Sure.
You got to remember, right? Like, all things in balance. We are very blessed to be in an industry that by definition has to exist, because people have to live somewhere. And whatever it looks like going forward, structurally or from the financial side or whatever, there will be a new normal. And it's very likely, by the way, that the new normal doesn't look very much different than the way that normal looks since the 90s, whenever buyer's agents even came into the picture.
Look,
right?
The new normal is going to be how we explain it, right?
The story you tell, or the way that you provide service.
No, it's how you explain how commissions get paid. Like number one, if we go down some of this path of how I've seen some idiot comments, and the ones that do this, you're an idiot, because I'm going to break it down with what you're saying. Is like, it's about time. Buyers need to pay their own commission. And I'm like, look, fool, like, it's already costly to buy. Loans, the interests are up. They do already. I agree. But the way they're saying it, they need to pay it themselves out of their own pocket. I'm like, they've got the loan. They've got their closing costs. They've got their down payment. their moving expenses, everything. That shit costs a lot of money. And so then you're going to throw in that they need to pay out of their own pocket those commissions, when in reality, it's going to lower the amount of buyers. You as a homeowner is going to get pissed that your home's on the market or your value's dropping because you've already paid into the system.
Yes.
So let's not use idiotic comics on that. That is the most absurd thing I've ever heard. And look, everybody, the average American builds their net worth off of owning their own property, not other real estate, their own freaking property. Yeah. So it really wasn't broken in the first place. I think the lawsuit was bullshit. And overall, it was some attorneys and some people just getting, wanting to get their hand in the piece of the pie because they were pissed off. They paid X percent. That was really small potatoes.
Just a money grab.
Yeah. And look, there are some agents that probably need to leave the industry because they probably didn't do that great for their agent or for their clients.
This is so when I
got heated on that.
No, you're dude. That's why I was giving you space. I like this fiery Nick. Yeah. He's taking his normal polo shirt off. He's wearing like a gangster jumpsuit now. It's like, I love it, man. Or tracksuit. Anyway, I think I've said this all the time. Opportunity never disappears. It simply manifests itself differently, right? And so the point I was making before, if this ends up in fewer agents per available transactions, that means the available amount of income per agent goes up. So there is opportunity for you to find massive success in whatever this world looks like going forward, or whatever it will look in whatever iteration for the rest of eternity. People that want to do business will find a way to do business, massive amounts of it. You just got to decide, are you interested or committed? And are you going to get up every day and take massive action? Or are you going to sit on Facebook and complain about FUB and NAR lawsuits?
And do we really want to make it even harder for people to buy real estate? Like, eventually we become a rental. We don't own shit. Corporations own everything, and then
who's the German guy? Like you'll own nothing.
Yeah, and like it. Like, no, I'm not. I want to own stuff. I would like to have a piece of the American pie. I like to build some wealth.
Are you? What's your interpretation of values? Right. This has been one of the concerns with this. Is like this could negatively affect home values. Has been an argument that I've heard quite a bit.
Which part?
The if there happens to be the net effect of this happens to be that there is a reduction in net commissions paid out per transaction, then values would be reduced in a correlation to that. And I think that's an interesting conversation. I think people are on both sides. So like if we stop paying,
how much are we talking about?
Nobody ever talks like that's the thing about these arguments is that
no one talks about it.
There's very little specificity.
Again, in the comments during the trial, they talked about using the commission amount of 3%.
Okay.
Right. So the assumption that in the lawsuit was going is like, all right, the buyer agent gets paid 3%.
Okay.
Right. So are we saying if
which is interesting when we talk about an NAR lawsuit, because that's not an NAR rule.
And Gary stood up for that. He's like, look, if you look at the average commissions, they're actually, that pays out, they're not 3%.
They're not,
so
right.
That's not, there's no set standards.
Good point.
And on that, so if we just take what they talked about in the lawsuit, making this clear, this is not setting any standard tone, but that what was talked about with Gary on the stand was using the 3% number. So are we saying that market value is only overly inflated by 3%?
Well,
is it?
And I think that's the argument that I've heard, is that essentially that standardized conspiratorial, if you want to call it, commissions artificially inflate home values, which I don't. That's a much more nuanced conversation, because I'll give you an example, right? You're an investor. I'm an investor.
By the way, they've used in the past, and hold that comment, they've used in the past the commission compression, correct? The seller's reducing their home value by 3%.
Oh, yeah, I was going to say the same thing.
Go talk to every for sale by owner and tell me if they're reducing their value.
Well, that's actually the argument that I was going to make. So I disagree with that in some way, but I also think that it's more nuanced than that. None of this stuff is black and white, by the way. So hear me out.
But the average commission has been decreasing, right? So
100%.
So has the average home price decreased?
No. So let me just average home prices have
right now
decreased.
Right now it has, but overall, if you look at the trend, it hasn't.
Yeah.
The trend is it's gotten more expensive.
I agree. So this is why this is an interesting guys. I'm not the bad guy here. I think this is an interesting conversation. I don't have an opinion on it. Right.
I think you do have an opinion. Let's hear it.
I'm going to use a different example for a second. So maybe I can just frame this in a way.
If you have 2 bananas,
that you won't think that I'm trying to say one thing is like irrevocably true. When I make an offer on an investment property, if it's listed, right, I offer less in equivalent to what I would have offered if I was making full commission, because I don't take commission on deals that I buy. Makes perfect sense because I don't want to pay taxes when I can just get the home for less. Does anybody disagree with that? Have you ever done that? You're texting. Nick texts a lot during the show.
Yeah, sorry. This was super important. Say that one more time.
When I make an offer on a
because
home,
I'm sure the listeners want to hear it again.
When I make an offer on a home and it's listed on the MLS,
yes,
I usually reduce my offer price by the amount of my commission, and I do not take my commission because I don't want to pay taxes on that commission. Doesn't make any sense. I'd rather just buy the home for less, the exact amount less than my commission would be. Have you ever done that?
Well, you could roll it in for closing costs too, so you're not paying commissions and buy the rate down. But there's a whole different story. Yes, I understand what you're saying. Sure. Right.
So that would be reducing the value of the home.
Sure,
because that home becomes a comparable sale now.
Sure,
and it was sold for the amount less my commission.
But you also understand, like you understand that. Where are we saying, like so, this is you with how many years of experience?
That's a great point. So that's where I'm going with that. So let's not shoot the messenger.
Sure.
In theory, that does reduce home values. I've actually done that myself. You could do a lot of things. It depends on if you're paying cash. Or
Danny, I agree with you. I just said that.
If you're doing a cash deal, it wouldn't matter.
That's right. This guy in the blue
depends
shirt.
on how you're purchasing it.
I
Right?
agree with Daryl. This guy in the blue shirt doesn't know what he's talking
Financing
about.
is very nuanced. There are many tools by which to do this. Okay. Regardless, that only
irregardless,
right?
That'll work.
That really only matters if that were to happen across the board today. Okay, that really only matters through one cycle.
Again, and
meaning
I don't say this. I don't say this the way that it's intended to come out, where a lot of agents be like, I've been doing this for 20 years.
Right.
I've been doing this for almost 20 years. And I've called a lot of for sale by owners who did not want to pay a commission.
Right.
Now, first and foremost, when I go run their numbers, they're actually, the value they're asking for their home is actually higher than market value.
Yeah.
And when I say, all right, Mr. Force, would if I brought you a buyer, would you pay me a commission? They're like, hell no.
Right.
There's a reason I went for sale by owner. I'm like, okay, would you? Market value is really this, but if you're not wanting to pay commission, at least can you take it off the price? Nope, this is what I want.
Right.
Look,
and
people,
data would also show that FSBOs usually sell for less than
they
homes.
sell for less.
Yeah.
And
so if anything, they're reducing home
look,
values.
We're greedy by nature. We're just greedy. We don't want to lose money.
Right.
In our mind, this number, this fake number that we set in our mind up here, we don't want to go below it because I'm not going $1 less.
Sure.
And then you're like, so if I'm telling you, if I have cash right now, that's $1 less, you wouldn't take it? Well, I would.
Right.
Okay. So you would. So that's bullshit. But, it's not, again, what number are we talking about that's inflating home values so much? Because really commissions are single digit. For the most part, I have rarely ran into people that are charging double-digit commission rates.
Daryl is.
Apparently.
Well, then we need Daryl on this show.
He's crushing it out there.
Yeah, if we can have Daryl on to tell us how to get double-digit commission rates, but that's the point of this is like,
no, I don't.
I don't see that the reason for like, I do. Here's the thing: I agree and disagree at the same time. I think clear cooperation. Like if that was the lawsuit on, and that was the only thing, 100%, that deserved NAR and whoever else was behind it. They deserve to get their asses kicked on that one. And I don't think it's KW's fault. I don't think it's the brokerage's fault. I think that whomever, and I think it's NAR. I've been told that there's people behind the curtains that we don't even see.
Whoa.
That really wanted that. And so ultimately, the clear co-op is that was what should be held guilty, and that should go away.
Yeah. And
then just let us negotiate. It's okay to have the free market on this.
So that there's a lot there. We feel the same, like, in the sense that we agree and disagree, right? Like I wanted to just use that example that if you were to remove a commission on your own purchase and purchase it for less, then there could be merit to an argument that you've reduced home values. Right now, the other side to that, and I was going to get to, is like, if I were to do that and improve the property and then hire a realtor to sell it, the value, I would not inflate the value by that realtor's commission either. So the value in my eyes is what the asset is worth. So even if that were to happen across the board today and everybody reduced their home price by X amount of money and then sold it on their own without a realtor, the next time they sold, if they choose to hire someone, they wouldn't artificially inflate the price. They would go off of what the comps were. Like, they would look at comparable sales, and then they would hire their realtor based on the service that they provide. And they wouldn't inflate the price based on the commission, because their home wouldn't sell.
Sure.
Because the buyers don't care if you have a realtor or not. They're not going to pay more for that. So it doesn't long term, it does not artificially inflate home values.
Correct.
It just doesn't.
No,
it doesn't.
Naturally, guess what? It just goes up.
If I happen to have a license that makes it advantageous for me to not be a professional, but only be a client, then I'm saving myself my own money in that regard. And I'm not necessarily artificially inflating home values, right? And so it becomes a very interesting conversation when you talk about clear cooperation, all that type of stuff. But that is why I believe there's merit to have these conversations.
Could we say COVID money artificially inflated home values?
We're
not allowed to touch
you guys
that.
want to go down
Wait,
that
we're not
rabbit
allowed
hole?
to touch that topic? Oh
Show.
boy. Oh boy.
We only usually do an hour on the
Oh,
show.
I mean,
You guys want to go down that
Yeah,
rabbit
I
hole?
mean, do we? I mean,
I use that as an example to say, like, there's merit to a lot of different sides of these arguments. The reality is things tend to smooth themselves out over time. Even if which we already tended to operate really on paper in an industry where standards were not commissioned, or commissions were not standardized, they were completely negotiable, which has always been the case, by the way. That's just like every other sort of commission or service-based industry, everything from lawyers to hair salon stylists, right? And the good ones that provide the best service and work their asses off prevail. So just don't, this is an interesting conversation. Don't let this be the thing that keeps you up at night, because here's the thing. If commissions being standardized and this conspiracy that everybody thinks is now, we're being convicted of or whatever, this wasn't the thing holding your business back.
no.
It wasn't. Guys, you can fucking do this. Get up tomorrow. Take massive action.
No.
Stop worrying about this stuff.
Well, stop worrying about it, but also don't be a generalist. Start becoming a specialist. Like, we're
Yeah.
going to have Beth Silverman back on the show in a couple weeks, right, Jesse?
Yeah, 2 weeks.
And so in 2 weeks, she's going to be back on the show. And she's gone down and really developed her niche with pad split. It's even a nichier niche than just working investors.
Nichier niche.
Right? And
I'm
so
excited. She's actually recording some
stuff with Tor
classes.
Studios.
Well, that too, but she's recording a class about working with investors.
It's not
and
just a
pad split
class,
stuff.
it's becoming pad split certified.
Dude, that's
so that
good.
you
It's
can
pretty cool.
understand that. And guess what? Like, what I've always told her, I said, look, if you working with investors, what do they want? They don't care really that you charge a commission or what your fee is, as long as the deal makes sense to them and makes them money.
I had this conversation with a good friend of both of ours today, and we talked about the same
Wait,
thing.
I wasn't there.
You weren't. I know. You were here,
Oh,
and I was there.
Yeah.
Which was weird.
Yeah.
That's very rare. We talk. If you guys want a real example of why none of this matters, and you should just do the best that you possibly can in your business and take radical action every single day. Wholesalers are the greatest example of this. Do you give a crap how much money a wholesaler makes?
no,
Absolutely not. How much is the most you've ever paid a wholesaler or your brother?
I don't know. But
Over $100,000. I know that, he told me.
But I do know that as much I've wholesale deals that I've made 90 to 100 grand on.
Mhm.
And guess what? That other person made great money too.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You know why? Because you did the legwork to provide a lot of value to that person.
Well,
I don't care what a wholesaler makes as long as they bring
But the
me great
value,
deal.
the value that I brought was a deal. Right?
Exactly.
So if it makes dollars, it makes sense.
Absolutely. And so what this might actually do, guys, is it might put all of us in a situation. We see this all as a negative. Like, here's the thing. When you have standardized commissions, you have standardized service. You have agents that all do the exact same thing. This is your opportunity to stand out. This is your opportunity to dive really deep on your value proposition. This is your opportunity to go above and beyond. This is the opportunity, just like a lawyer or a doctor who we often get compared to, but we really weren't financially structured the same as at all. this is your chance to stand out.
Stop with the motivational talk.
It's just the truth, man.
No,
We can
let's talk about what we're going to do when we hang our license up.
Exactly. Let's
and the jobs we're applying for.
Exactly.
Be like,
that's all anybody wants
Brian,
to talk about.
What jobs do you apply for? I've gone on 15 interviews. For some reason I'm not getting hired. Is there something wrong with me?
Because you're bringing this negativity every day, right? Like we've had this, guys. It's been an uphill and interesting year in real estate. You really want to be this to be another thing that makes you, afraid or fearful or whatever, or do you want this to be the thing that empowers you? It's your choice. It is absolutely your choice. It's
just a few more hours to become a doctor or lawyer. It's not that much more of a barrier.
This is your business, which means you control it. And now, if anything, if we go and we're all convicted of conspiracy, as soon as we get out of jail, we all now live in a world where we have the ability to create a business where we can make as much money as we want based on the service that we provide and the amount of deals that we do.
Who is the blue guy? Who's that? Who's talking right now? I love that. That's from now on, you're the blue guy.
The blue guy.
You know what nobody talked about is the fact that if you're an agent who goes out and gets listings, and then is it your job then to advocate for helping out the buyer's agent and bringing in that? Definitely. And being more attractive to your clients.
Definitely.
I think that's something that we need to talk about.
I think
this is what happens. This is look, you're gonna do here's how I see it, right? I believe that there's gonna be some oversteering, overcorrecting. Are you gonna see in the next couple weeks, months, towards the first of the year, are you gonna see some zero buyer's agent commission offers? Sure. Guess what? Those homes are gonna sit.
Yep.
And then the seller's gonna be like, hey, why is my house not selling? And I would be like, well, because you're not offering anything.
Yeah.
Well, why didn't you tell me to offer anything? Because you told me that you wanted to not offer. You just wanted to pay this.
Yeah.
And so you're going to see a little bit of that. I do personally believe that, that number one, you're going to see if this happens, if it goes that drastic of a course, you're going to see more intermediaries, where the listing agent's representing the buyer.
I was curious about your opinion on will those regulations adapt.
I don't know, because I was talking to another agent today in the hallway while waiting for you because I wasn't invited to that best friend meeting. Is there going to be any forms, or like right now you're not allowed to steer a client away from a listing because it doesn't pay, it doesn't pay. Like if it doesn't pay a certain amount,
right,
or whatever you charge, Brian, whatever you charge, if it doesn't pay that, you're not even allowed to say, well, I'm not going to take you there because it's only paying X.
Right.
So does that go away? There's a lot of things that I think is now confusing. And the fact is, I think you see a lot more. You could see some intermediaries where listing agents or just the agent in general is going to have to do more of the work, and they're probably going to cross some lines on who's really representing who.
Well,
I think that you're going to get buyers who felt they were taken advantage of because they couldn't afford representation. And do they bring a lawsuit?
That's the interesting, like how this plays out, maybe messy middle part of this, because at the most extreme, Jesse, you've Googled this before, but I don't remember the year. I think it was the early 90s, right?
Yeah, it was.
Right. So buyer's agency didn't even come about until the early 90s. And so the most extreme version of this is there are just no more buyer's agents. Right. But that also isn't the end of the world, because that's how real estate operated for like a century in the modern era until especially since the late 90s, it says. Requires buyers, with the increased practice in buyer agency in North America, especially since the late 90s, with the advent of buyer agency, buyer brokers in the early 90s. Yeah. So there was no 1 year, but it started to become popular in the early 90s. And so,
and what was, I would be interested to say, what was the commission rates back then?
I don't know, because they've never been standardized.
I understand that. I'm not saying that, but when you have enough data, there is going to be an average commission rate, right?
Yeah,
so
I know.
What was the average commission rate in the 80s and 90s?
We'll just wait for Jesse to pull it up, but that's actually a very good
because
question.
My guess is commission rates either are very similar and did not change very much. So
you just saw it right there.
So we can actually say this because this is not steering or anything else. The average commission rates for real estate agents in the United States between 1992 and 2023 Guess what the range has been? 92. It was 6.04%. 2005, it dropped to 5.02. It kind of hovered around that 5.1 to 5.3. And then 19 and 20, it was 5.7 to 5.6, and 23 is 5.46%.
Yeah, so you could see in really, really, really hot markets like 2005, emissions have dropped. But guys, 1992 probably didn't have mostly buyer representation at all. And your average, this is an average, so I'm not saying this is what you should be charging, across the nation was 6%.
Yeah,
So guys,
come on.
Just turn the lights on and go to work.
Yeah, this is, like the thing about this is like, number one, we do love all the negativity. And Brian did apply for Zillow.
Gets people to watch the show, I guess.
I mean, sure.
If
I
it
mean, it
bleeds,
gets
it
people to watch the
leads.
show. But look, there is a fear of, I was talking, I don't want to look up in 5 years and realize that I'm in a, I'm in an industry that I didn't adapt fast enough,
right,
that all of a sudden I've been bleeding that I didn't know it. And now all of a sudden 5 years I'm dead. And now I've got to go look for something, and I can't replicate the type of income that I've grown used to, or the lifestyle, et cetera. And now I got to go look for something else. It's kind of like, back then, the people that were selling a ton on eBay, they were making great money.
Sure.
And probably didn't pivot to, Amazon stores or
associates or something.
Yeah, something of that. And now you probably have a few, high-end eBay sellers, but the majority are gone.
Change is always difficult. It's always scary, right? Things are ever evolving, and you have the
scars.
Yeah, you have the opportunity to be afraid. I'm not saying, I don't know where that started.
Is that the Replacements?
Maybe something like that. But I mean, this is that's a good picture. This is not anything to just take lightly. I shouldn't say that. And I'm not blaming anybody for being stressed or fearful about this. This is a difficult, time in the economy and the industry, all that type of stuff. And then we have all this on top of it. I'm not saying you don't have a right to be a little stressed about this type of thing. Just don't let it be the thing that keeps you from taking action.
Sure. And it's not ending tomorrow. And look, all good things must come to an end eventually. I mean, we're all going to retire. And you could have, I've talked to people that have been in the industry 20 years that they've had their worst year this year, and they started looking for jobs.
Yeah, a lot of people have.
So, just because commissions could be changing or they don't change doesn't mean that your sales are going to stay the same.
Sure.
So look, it takes work. I would talk about the positivity. I think right now for a buyer, this is a small window. While things are more expensive, interest rates are higher. This is their opportunity to get really aggressive on negotiations and getting themselves still into home ownership. And the smart ones are taking advantage of that. There's still an opportunity. There's still houses selling.
Yeah.
And so, we'll have maybe a follow-up to this next week.
I'm sure we'll be talking about this for a little while, but I'm still not going to give in to the negativity.
Sure. And, don't let this show FUBar you up. So you definitely want to go support our sponsors because they didn't pick this topic. Don't hate them, right? You can go love on some Mortgage Mike and just send them some applications for those buyers that just want that Mortgage Mike stamp of approval. They're asking for money. Give the buyer some money, right? Go to mmgloans.com and connect with Mortgage Mike, the superstar lender, licensed only in Texas and Oklahoma, as well as once you're done with that, get that hard shell protection from Armadillo Home Warranty, armadillo.one/tour, TORE. And then we are seeing an uptick in people wanting to invest, right? We have a webinar tomorrow.
Yes.
We'll post it. It was in the only real estate group worth being a part of.
It's about the freaking link.
It's all right. We'll figure out how to do this. But tomorrow we're doing a webinar on how to buy your first apartment. Excuse me, your first apartment complex. Got me choked up there.
Yeah.
Our first one on that one.
Emotional.
But we're seeing a lot more investors wanting to come out and see how to take advantage of this market and build their rental portfolio. And they do that. You need to leverage it out through Dana Wynn, homewarddfw.com, the best property management company in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And then just do a show like this with Jesse. Chauncey Pham, star of Zombie House Flipping, is going to get with Jesse in Tour Studios. So go to tourstudios.com. Make yourself a damn quesadilla. That's all I got.
I don't even know how to end it better than that.
Yeah,
that's about.
I was not expecting that.
Yeah, of course not, because that's from a movie, and I still know some of them.
You do know. Nick is very rarely a movie quote guy.
I was heated today.
That was good.
I apologize.
I enjoyed this. We'll probably do it again next week.
I hope so.
All right.
Yep.
Until then.
All right, let's get out of here.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you for watching. We truly appreciate it. Checking out another episode of the Only Real Estate Podcast worth listening to. If you're watching this on YouTube, please go ahead, hit that share button, hit that like button, and hit the subscribe button. Right? We're dropping more stuff on YouTube constantly. If you're on iTunes, leave us a review, please. We're really, really focused on building up those reviews so we can get more searchable content on there. And if you're on Facebook, like everyone else is, go over and search the Only Real Estate Group worth being a part of. You're going to want to go join that group. I'm telling you right now, there's so much gold in there. So go join, share us on YouTube, and leave us that iTunes review. Please go do it right now. We'll see you on the next show.